Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I continue bringing you the story of Tien and Jack. After all the upheavals that once seemed capable of sweeping away every hope, Tien and Jack's lives have finally begun to regain their sense of peace. Their small farm rests quietly among vast green fields, where each morning sunlight filters through the leaves, casting soft golden streaks across the ground like drops of honey. Early dew still clings to the vegetable beds, sparkling under the light, creating a scene that feels both pure and serene. It is not a place of luxury or noise, but it holds a simple, enduring kind of happiness. Each day here begins with familiar sounds. The crowing of roosters echoes through the misty dawn, dogs run playfully across the yard as if welcoming a new day, and the gentle flow of water trickles through the soil, nourishing the roots below. Among these humble sounds is the laughter of Tien and Jack, the warmest sound of all, as if washing away the traces of past storms. Their life moves at a slow pace, yet it is far from dull. Instead, it is filled with a quiet fulfillment that comes from nurturing, caring, and watching new life grow day by day. Jack is no longer the closed-off and distant man he once was. The challenges he has endured have changed him, not making him weaker, but deeper. He has become calmer, more thoughtful, and quietly attentive to Tien. Whenever they work in the garden, he always notices whether she is tired, whether the sun is too harsh, whether she needs to rest. His care is not showy, nor does it rely on grand words, yet it gives Tien a sense of steady protection she once lacked. He not only works beside her, tending the crops and harvesting fruits, but also carefully plans for the future of their farm, step by step, slowly but surely. As for Tien, after everything she has been through, she has grown stronger in her own way. She no longer lets the past weigh heavily on her present, nor does she fear what has yet to come. She has learned to slow down, to listen to the wind through the trees, to feel the scent of damp soil after rain, and to cherish every moment spent beside the one she loves. To her, happiness is no longer something distant. It is found in simple meals, in quiet afternoons sitting with Jack on the porch, watching the sun fade beyond the fields. It once seemed that this happiness would last forever, like a calm river flowing without waves. Day after day of peace made them believe that the past had truly been left behind, that pain had become nothing more than a distant memory. They began to speak about the future with lighter hearts, no longer burdened by uncertainty. The small farm was not just a place to live, it was the beginning of a new life, built on trust and unity. Yet somewhere beyond their sight, darkness still lingered. It was not loud, not hurried, just like a dark cloud that had not fully drifted away on the horizon. Peace can sometimes make people less cautious, and in the very moment one feels safest, danger can quietly begin to rise again. Thủy, Tien's former mother-in-law, who had tried many times to harm her but failed, had disappeared after being pursued by the authorities. Those days in hiding, without identity or support, should have led her to reflect on her actions. But instead, the resentment within her only grew stronger. It burned silently, intensifying with time. In her distorted thinking, she believed that every misfortune she faced was caused by Tien. The truth no longer mattered, only bitterness and the desire for revenge remained. The days in hiding did not make her forget her goal. On the contrary, they darkened her heart even more. Within that shadow of hatred, she watched and waited for an opportunity. While Tien and Jack slowly let their guard down, believing the storm had passed, somewhere, unseen eyes were still fixed on their small farm, cold, calculating, and patient. And then, she returned. Late one quiet night, when the entire farm had sunk into a thin veil of cold mist and the pale moon hung faintly in the sky, the peaceful silence was suddenly torn apart by loud, frantic barking. The dogs in the yard were no longer barking sporadically as usual, they were growling and barking urgently, as if warning of danger drawing near. The sound echoed through the still night, making even the passing breeze feel colder than usual. Outside the small wooden house, hidden within the dense darkness, a shadowy figure slowly approached. Each step was quiet yet deliberate, moving closer to the porch that had stayed dry after many sunny days. No unnecessary noise, no hesitation. In a single moment, gasoline was splashed across the roof and the outer wooden walls. The sharp smell quickly spread through the air, mixing with the damp night mist into something suffocating. Then, it only took a single spark. Flames erupted violently, as if they had been waiting to be released. They quickly climbed along the dry wooden planks, spreading to the pile of straw stacked beside the house. Bright red flames crawled up the porch, slipped through cracks, and began devouring sections of the walls. The crackling sound of burning wood echoed eerily in the darkness, while the firelight cast flickering, distorted shadows across the ground. Thick black smoke soon followed, seeping through the gaps in the doors and flooding into the room where sleep still lingered. Inside the bedroom, Jack suddenly jolted awake. At first, it was just a vague sense of unease from the relentless barking, but the glow of fire reflecting through the window snapped him fully alert. The orange-red light danced across the wall, an unmistakable warning. In just seconds, he understood what was happening. "Tien! Wake up," he shouted, shaking her shoulder, his voice rough with urgency. But the smoke had already filled the room faster than he expected. The air became thick and scorching, burning his throat. Tien had barely opened her eyes before she began coughing violently. Each cough came in waves, leaving her gasping for breath. The smoke invaded her lungs, her head spun, her vision blurred. Within moments, her body went limp, her consciousness slipping into darkness. There was no time to panic or think further. Jack acted immediately. He pulled her off the bed, trying to keep her from hitting anything as the room grew hotter by the second. With what little composure he had left, he grabbed a nearby cloth, soaked it quickly in water, and covered both their mouths and noses. The damp fabric helped block some of the thick smoke closing in around them. Behind them, the fire grew more violent. The temperature rose rapidly, and sharp cracking sounds rang out as wooden beams began to split. The door leading outside was already partially burned, smoke swirling heavily around it. Holding Tien tightly in his arms, Jack lifted her with all his remaining strength and pushed forward through the suffocating haze. Each step was heavy, but determined. The flames seemed to block his path, embers falling all around them. 1 second slower, and everything could have been lost. Finally, with a powerful shove, he forced the half-burned door open and burst out into the yard. The air outside, though still filled with smoke, was far easier to breathe. Jack dropped to his knees on the cold ground and gently laid Tien down. Her face looked pale under the flickering firelight, her eyes closed without any response. His chest tightened at the sight of her stillness. "Tien, listen to me." "Tien," he called repeatedly, his voice trembling but trying to stay steady. He quickly checked her breathing, leaning close to feel the faint air from her lips. Thankfully, her chest still rose and fell, weakly, but steadily. She was still breathing. That fragile truth became a small spark of hope in the chaos of the night. Around them, the fire raged uncontrollably, its red glow lighting up the dark sky. The sounds of burning wood, crackling straw, barking dogs, and rushing wind blended into a scene of chaos unlike anything the peaceful farm had ever known. Without wasting another second, Jack grabbed his phone. His hands trembled, but he dialed quickly. He called the fire department, urgently giving the address and describing the situation. Then he called the police, making it clear, this was not an accident, but an act of arson. Amid the flames consuming the house behind them, Jack knelt beside Tien, holding her close as he waited for help to arrive. That night, their fragile peace was burned away, leaving ahead a chain of events they would have no choice but to face. Just minutes later, while the flames were still raging across the yard in a fierce red glow, the sirens of fire trucks echoed from afar, tearing through the silent night. The urgent sound spread across the fields, reflecting on dew-covered vegetable beds, signaling that the chaos was no longer beyond control. Flashing lights swept across the farm, painting everything in intense streaks of red and blue. The firefighters quickly took action. High-pressure hoses were deployed, sending powerful streams of water straight into the blazing fire. Steam rose thickly as water met flames, forming a dense white cloud that engulfed the area. Burned wooden walls began to cool, and the crackling sounds of fire gradually weakened with each wave of water. At the same time, the police arrived, immediately securing the scene, maintaining a safe perimeter, and documenting every remaining detail. Urgent footsteps pressed into the damp ground as flashlights scanned every dark corner around the house. The smell of gasoline still lingered in the air, sharp and unmistakable. From the traces left behind, the soaked porch, fuel-soaked straw, and the way the fire had spread, authorities quickly concluded that this was not an electrical accident or an unfortunate incident. Everything pointed to deliberate arson, carefully planned and executed under the cover of darkness. In a shadowed corner, just beyond the reach of the lights, a figure quietly watched the entire scene. Thủy stood there, half hidden in the darkness, her eyes reflecting the flames that were slowly being extinguished. As more fire trucks and officers arrived, she realized her plan had failed. The house had not been completely destroyed, and Tien and Jack were still alive. There was no regret in her eyes. Only cold resentment. Her expression hardened with the weight of failure, but not surrender. In her distorted thinking, this was far from over. Slowly, she stepped backward into deeper darkness, each movement cautious, until she disappeared completely into the cold night. But this time, things were different. The traces left behind were no longer faint. The police had gained crucial leads from the scene, evidence that had not yet been erased. Investigations expanded, small clues began connecting into a clearer picture. An invisible net was tightening, slowly but surely. No matter how carefully the perpetrator tried to hide, escape would no longer be as easy as before. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the atmosphere was completely different from the chaos outside. The faint scent of antiseptic filled the air, and cold white lights illuminated the small room where Tien lay resting. After receiving timely treatment for smoke inhalation, she gradually regained consciousness, still weak, but no longer in danger. Her eyelids fluttered, her breathing steadied, and when she finally opened her eyes, the first person she saw was Jack. He sat close beside her bed, his eyes red from a sleepless night filled with worry. His usual calm expression remained, but it could not hide the tension lingering at the corners of his eyes. His hand held hers tightly, as if letting go for even a moment might place her in danger again. Feeling the gentle pressure of his grip, Tien understood, he had been there the entire time. No words were needed. A single glance said everything. The fear he had felt when he thought he might lose her. The determination now forming as he realized the danger was not yet over. The peace they had just begun to rebuild now felt fragile again, threatened by the darkness still lurking beyond their sight. Peace had seemed to return after the fire was extinguished and life was preserved. But the hatred within Thủy had not faded. It smoldered like embers waiting for the right moment to ignite again. Will the police be able to track her down in time before things spiral out of control? What new schemes is she planning in the shadows? And after that terrifying night, what will Jack do to protect Tien from the dangers still surrounding them? The journey ahead is filled with challenges. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Xin chào mọi người. quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến video của Tự Tiên và Giác nha mọi người. Bây giờ thì mình đang làm các bước cuối cùng. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tạo ảnh thumbnail, tức là cái ảnh bìa của video nha mọi người. Thì sau khi mình tạo ảnh bìa xong thì mình mới làm đến các bước tiếp theo. Thì cái ảnh bìa hôm nay thì để nói lên được ý nghĩa của video hôm nay là bà Thủy đã hãm hại Tự Tiên và Giác bằng cách là phóng hỏa nhà cô. May mắn thì Giác đã phát hiện ra và đã cứu Tự Tiên khỏi nguy hiểm và đám cháy cũng nhanh chóng được dập tắt. Cảm ơn mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo.